This is from a presentation that I did last year at TCA, Texas Counseling Association Professional Growth Conference. And this is just, some of my colleagues and I, we have a Texas Supervisor Training Facebook page. And there's about 800 of us. And so we talk a lot about this, and we talk a lot about the new rules. For those of you who didn't know, the new rules are published, so LPC interns are now LPC associates, but I put this in your module because I thought it was pretty good information. So I'm going to just go through it real fast. But your supervisor, if they were trained by me, they already know this. If they weren't trained by me, they may not know this. So you'll have this handy dandy PowerPoint. You can say to your new supervisor, hey, do you know this? Because Dr. Walker says you should. So every supervisor should create an orientation for you with quick reads, quick assessments, people skill expectations, how to receive supervision, and the latest version of the rules. So, and why? Because obviously you can interview well, your supervisor can interview well, and then you can have some real horror stories, once you get into the actual experience. And it's not as hard to get out of as it used to be, but it's a pain if you find out that you're really not a good fit for your supervisor, or your supervisor's not a good fit for you. So it's really important that you're able to interview your supervisor, that you have a job. Make sure that you have at least a line on a job, because you can't accrue hours unless you have a job. Make sure that your supervisor helps you understand what the objectives are, that they're not just going to play gotcha, and that they have a procedure for evaluating you regularly, right? You don't want a supervisor that just comes out of the blue and says, you know what, I don't like how you did that, you're fired. So my favorite intern mistake, I have so many, and it's okay because, we talk about you guys are beginners and it's okay to make mistakes, but your supervisor shouldn't, right? You should be able to trust your supervisor not to make egregious mistakes. But if you're going to be fully licensed, you're going to make mistakes just based on the fact you're a beginner, and you're probably going to be in over your head most of the time. And so I recommend 5 books. So the 5 books that I recommend cover infidelity, addiction, codependency in women, codependency in men, systems thinking, in a basic couple book. Because most of you will leave school with kind of the information that you needed to pass your exams, but you may not have just a really good resource that you can listen to in the car on the way to work, or you can read at night before you go to bed to really help you remember all of this good systems that we're talking about. So here are the books I recommend. Codependent No More helps you work with families with an addicted member, or partners with an addicted partner. The Dance of Anger. Someone was asking me earlier about Bowen and how does it work, especially with a more collectivist point of view. The Dance of Anger shows you how, because it helps you understand when families are starting to organize themselves around an unhealthy pattern. So it's really not about we can do it better by ourselves. It's how families can learn to function better. Addictive Thinking, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's probably my favorite addiction book of all time. And then the book No More Mr. Nice Guy. If you have not read No More Mr. Nice Guy, when you leave this course tonight, order it on Amazon and read it, because it's basically helps you understand how men are acculturated to think in terms of needs, getting needs met, and taught to squash their emotions, things like being polite and chivalrous, how that works against them. So where Codependent No More is really geared toward women, No More Mr. Nice Guy does a really, really good job of explaining and helping the average therapist understand some of the problems with acculturation for men. My Bible for helping couples heal from affairs is right here. It's How to Help Your Spouse Heal from Your Affair by Linda McDonald. And then my Bible for couples, just for the marriage counseling part, is Anything by Sue Johnson. But this book, Hold Me Tight, is very readable. It's great for couples to assign to them to read as, just something that they can work through while they're in counseling with you. I believe in having quick assessments because your job may not always train you to have what you need. And so I literally just Googled these. So a quick assessment to see if someone is a danger of homicide. I didn't even know that existed until I Googled this last year. Back when we're in person again, it's good to know if someone's having a heart attack or a stroke. And then you should also have a quick suicide assessment, especially if you're in a location where maybe you don't have your paper assessment with you. Having the SLAP plan is just so essential. And for those of you who are in internship or you'll be in internship next semester, this little slide right here I think is pretty good. And then people skills, making sure, and this is a little bit longer, so people skills, too much self-disclosure, so sort of like, hey, I did that too, or you're a breast cancer survivor, I'm a breast cancer survivor, or hey, you have a son who's an addict, I have a son who's an addict. That's that countertransference that gets in the way. Sometimes what we do, especially those of us who went into this as a second career, we're bringing, like I was a teacher for 14 years. And so I bring a lot of my teaching in, and that's hard to do. Bullet number 4, going to work after the gym. You'd be surprised how many interns think it's okay to go to work and not take a shower between the gym and sitting in that little 12 by 10 foot room with a stranger. So people skills, knowing your personal hygiene, and knowing when your tattoos, piercings, hair color, and clothing style don't fit the population that you're trying to work with, right? So I have tattoos, but I also cover up, and when I'm meeting somebody for the first time, that's me. You and your supervisor can decide what's best for you. Probably one of the most important things is how to receive supervision, because you guys are such high achievers and you're so good at what you do, and you're such good students that when you receive correction and criticism, you might really take it personally, and it may rupture the relationship you have with your supervisor. So you have to tell yourself that it's okay to be supervised, and what does that mean? And so this is really for supervisors, just making sure that you have good evaluation tools and you evaluate on a regular basis. Knowing the rules, yes, they're published. If your supervisor still thinks that, that's a trick question. Actually, ask your supervisor when you're interviewing supervisors. Ask them, how long do records need to be kept? If they say 5 years or 6 years, they have not read the rules, because the new rules just came out last week, and you now have to have records for 7 years if you're an LPC, and 5 years past the age of majority if you're seeing a kiddo. All right, so that's just a quickie slideshow. I will put it in Module 13. Any questions about that?